The Red Scarf 2 Plus series of keyboards aim to recreate variations of the layout found on the IBM Model F. The one that we have today is the Red Scarf 2 Plus version B, or the RS78, which is a 65% board with a 10-key function cluster on the left. The board has a fairly sturdy construction with an aluminum body and feet along with an acrylic bottom. Perhaps because of this bottom, it is lightweight at 1 pound and 13 ounces, which is about 820 grams. The reason for this acrylic bottom is to allow for the PCB underglow to shine through. Strangely, the Red Scarf series PCBs all use cheap generic RGB LED controllers, but you can program these features into the keys through their software. Speaking of which, the keyboard can be programmed using TMK, and the layouts can be generated at tkg.io, but it seemed kinda clunky, so I never got around to trying that out. Moving on to the layout, the 65% portion of the keyboard is not an uncommon sight in the keyboard community, especially of late, since it is a balanced layout that contains the keys that are used most frequently. When using this layout, you will likely not need to use any function layer to access keys, which you will have to do for things like arrow keys on a standard 60% board. There are some members of the community that strongly advocate for the function row, and it seems that they find them most useful as shortcut keys in specific programs or as macros. A major selling point of this keyboard is the addition of these keys in a way slightly different from 75% boards, which I think are less aesthetically pleasing. In theory, this should provide easy access to these useful keys, but I didn't find this to be true. Personally, I don't use the function row aside from F4 for closing programs with Alt F4 and F5 to refresh pages, and maybe once in a while F12 to inspect elements on a web page. And I found that when I did try to use them, my muscle memory would get in the way. Whenever I wanted to use a function key, I needed to look down at the keyboard, and I don't think I can get used to this anytime soon, since I don't use them often enough. This is not too big of a problem, since a lot of enthusiasts use the function cluster as a storage for the artisan keycaps. Other than the ergonomics issue with the function cluster, typing on this board is absolutely wonderful. I've built this with Gatoron yellows that I've lubed with clipped and looped and toothpick stabs, and this is hands down the best linear board I've ever typed on. Obviously, most of this comes down to the switches and the stabs, but I think the design of the board helps in some ways. Most custom boards on the market use a tray mount, which means that the keyboard part of the keyboard is attached to the case by screws that hold the PCB in place. A lot of the very high-end custom boards use a top mount system, which is screwing the plate to the case. Some people say that this contributes to the PCB being able to flex, which is supposed to add to the typing feel. The RS78 has this system where the keyboard assembly is affixed to the case by these tabs on the plate which screw in from the bottom. Whether or not this really helps is unclear, but this board made me lighten up to the idea of using linear switches, which I previously avoided like the plague. With all that said, here is a typing demonstration. As good as this keyboard is, I think I'll be letting it go. There is quite a bit of demand for it in the market as an artisan showcase, placing it anywhere between $200 and $300, and it just doesn't make any sense for me to keep it with its non-standard programming software and weird function cluster. It will be hard to see this go, as I was trying to form my Red Scarf collection, but I think there will be better options.